This is the legend of a man named Ilya. Born in Chernihiv, Ukraine, to a computer engineer mother and an athlete and coach father, Ilya lived a happy life in his local community. Ilya soon discovered an upright piano sitting at the corner of his house at an extremely young age. Despite the fact that there was very little music at home when he was growing up, Ilya would experiment with the piano, becoming mesmerized by the beautiful sounds that came from this instrument. Seeing his interest, his mom would take him to hear a performance of Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto No. 1 when he was 6 years old. Ilya loved the concerto. In fact, he loved it so much that he told his mom that when he grew up, he wanted to become a pianist. At 9 years old, Ilya began learning the piano. Ilya was happy. And then one day, something virtuosic would happen. Something that would change his life forever. At 12 years old, Ilya gave his first concert at the National Philharmonic of Ukraine. At 13 years old, Ilya would study in Kyiv at the Kyiv Lysenko Music Lyceum for gifted children. Ilya would soon achieve a power level of over 9,000, as he would eventually study with the great Arie Vardi. Ilya would soon compete at piano competitions, and he would win his first major prize at the International Competition for Young Pianists in memory of Vladimir Horowitz. Also, in 2021, Ilya would win a major prize at the Busoni International Piano Competition. Ilya was at the cusp of greatness. That breakthrough would arrive in 2022. Through round after round, Ilya would eventually win first prize at the Honens International Piano Competition, also known as Canada's Grand Slam of International Piano Competitions. Afterwards, Ilya would break through his limits, and he would perform at many of the world's most renowned concert halls, including Carnegie Hall, La Salle Courtauld, the Concert House Berlin, and Le Folle Journée in Warsaw, Poland. Ilya has told the stories of many composers and artists through his concerts. But as we hone in on Honens, it is time to tell his story, his adventures, his legend. This is the legend of Illia Ovcharenko. Ilya, thank you so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It is an incredible pleasure to be able to share my story, and thank you.
So let's start off from the very, very beginning. I sort of alluded to this in the introduction in terms of your inspirations to go into piano, but could you go into more detail into how those inspirations ended up influencing you down the early path to learn piano in the first place?
I mean, just as you said, was just a coincidence that my mother was invited to a Philharmonic Hall in our small town in Ukraine, Chernihiv Philharmonic Concert Hall. She has never herself kind of attended concert halls like that. And she kind of didn't know I was 6 years old only. And she didn't really know that. I mean, usually if a kid has never listened to any music, you don't bring him to the concert hall. So she took me along with her, and from what she says, I was just listening so carefully, and I didn't feel asleep, and I was so interested in what was going on the stage, and Tchaikovsky's First Piano Concerto was being played. And just right after the concert, she says, I was shocked because literally the first phrase you told me was, I want to do the same, I want to do the same, I want to do like this. So that's how it all began. And at first, of course, she thought, well, tomorrow he'll forget about that, etc., etc. I didn't. And eventually she said, okay, let's try something with music. I mean, it's good for your education. But she said, but let you sing first. because first of all, buying the piano and where will you practice, etc. It's all very complicated. So let you sing, and then she says, when you will find out what solfeggio is, you will quit immediately, and that will be the end of it. So I started singing, and then I didn't quit, and I kept asking her, so when am I going to play the piano? When am I going to play the piano? And eventually, 2 years later, my mom was kind of not forced, but she's been very, very supportive along my journey. And eventually I started playing the piano.
Nice.
So that's how it all began.
That's such a wholesome, great story. That's very, very cute as well. And it just goes to show and the impact that not just Tchaikovsky, but classical music has on people at a very young age. It's something that just sticks with you. Even as you get older, it just sticks with you, right? And in your case, it really stuck with you to this very day. But it's like it's one thing that when you hear a really, really good performance of something, it leaves a lasting impression on your own mind, even years down the road.
Absolutely, I cannot agree more, and that's why whenever there is a concerto performance, and whenever I find out that during the general rehearsal is open to the kids, I'm so happy, and this is really impactful in a way. Even if one kid will be interested in music, 1, 2, it is really very important for our field, and I think I'm always so happy when I hear that kids are coming to hear the general rehearsal.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite influential for the kids in that respect as well. In your career, as you started playing piano, what were the early music influences on your style?
I would say, I mean, until like 12 years old, 13 years old, didn't really listen much on YouTube. I mean, I think it was still like beginning of those recordings, etc. I didn't have access to any of those. But when I went to study to Kyiv, of course, my first influence was Vladimir Horowitz, and he still is, I would say, my favorite pianist of all times. If I could just name one, of course. I also, because he was born in Kyiv, and it's just I feel I just wish I could have known him, at least met once. That's really one of my biggest dreams that I know will never actually happen. But listening to him and hearing his personality through music is really what inspires me so much.
Yeah, and Horowitz, I mean, I think most of our audience being musicians would know who he is, but for those who are not familiar with who Vladimir Horowitz is, he's, as Illia stated, known as one of the greatest pianists of all time, and you hear it in all of his performances, from his young performances all the way up until close to his death, honestly, but you still hear that. You hear it. I mean, it's something that in words, it's so difficult to describe. And to have an influence like that on your performance, and really on so many other musicians' performances, really speaks to even how his influence long after his death still has an impact on the way how people think about the music.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's just from the first note, it's just something so special. His sound is something really so special you cannot really describe. And I would say nobody can ever recreate or try to recreate him, because that will be a parody. It's really something unique that just, for me, is associated with him, and nobody ever can try and play like him, because that will sound like a caricature in a way. It's just you fall in love with the first notes. If it's some Chopin mazurka, oh my God, like any of Chopin mazurkas, it's just you fall in love with music and with his playing, and what he does on the piano is true magic. Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, truly magical to this very day, and just the lyricism that you hear from his playing, that sometimes can be hauntingly beautiful too. It's
Yes, absolutely. You never know what to expect from him. I mean, every note is so different, and you don't expect it in a way that he does it, and it sounds so convincing yet so beautiful. It just, yeah, no words can describe. You can only kind of hear it and fall in love.
it's like the old saying goes, where words end, music begins, right? So
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
now, in order to learn piano and for you to get to where you were, to begin in learning piano, you would have had to face a lot of challenges along the way. Early on, what were the greatest challenges that you faced in learning piano?
I mean, as I said, like not having constantly access to practicing piano when I was very young. I mean, from the age 8 to 12, and only now I understand that it was kind of a challenge. However, at that time, I mean, I was going to school, I had lots of homework, etc. I was not very much well aware that if you don't practice 1 day or 2 days, that impacts you. I mean, now I wish I'm just like, I'm thinking, what if I did practice those at this young age, like every day, or learned some pieces. I mean, but it's a question of what if, and what if I practiced every day and suddenly at the age of 8 didn't really like doing that every day. So it's like what if. So that was a challenge, I can say. And well, later on, I mean, I would say. Um, just studying alone in Kyiv without my family for 4 years. That's also quite a challenge, I guess. But I mean, having many friends there, and it's like we had in Kyiv, we had this kind of boarding school where kids live from different cities of Ukraine. They live all together in one building, etc. Like 6 people, 6 kids in one room. So, and then you wake up early in order to get a practice room at school. If you don't get up early, then you kind of don't have a practice room. So that was also a challenge. I always loved to sleep, always, all my life. I really, not an early bird, I would say. So that was a big challenge to get a room early in the morning to practice. But it was so much fun, and I mean we had really lots of fun. But I guess those were the biggest challenges. I wouldn't say that it was so easy for me to fall in love with every piece that I kind of chose to play. That it always brought me joy practicing those new pieces, discovering something new. I always was interested in learning from different professors, if it's a history of music professor or I mean solfege professor, harmony professor, always was interesting for me to get to know something new, and so that was very amazing time at the same time, despite some challenges with practice.
Yeah, yeah, and that's actually what I was also curious about too. What was the curriculum like at this school? I think you were mentioning about the Kyiv Lyceum, the music Lyceum.
Yes,
So,
yes.
what was the curriculum like for you, and how has that impacted your foundational aspect of your performance and style?
The curriculum was really good, I would say. So it's like a real music school. However, it's like combined, the high school combined with music school. So the subjects are all intertwined, I guess. Like we would have math, like algebra, geometry, history. Then it would be solfege, harmony, history of music, chemistry, physics. So all of it together kind of intertwined during the week. And so why kind of you need to practice, you would have needed to practice in the morning, because I mean the classes, sometimes they start early morning, 9 in the morning, or sometimes they start actually afternoon, like from 12 or 1 p.m. and go until the evening. So if you kind of don't practice in the morning, then you're kind of so tired after all of the classes you attended that you don't really kind of practice during the whole day. But I have to admit, our school, because it's mostly focused on music, and not mostly, it is really, really heavily focused on music, and that is the most important subject. Um, so many teachers of like chemistry, physics, we've had a very, very nice teachers. They would kind of close their eyes if we don't appear on the class, and instead we go practice. Of course, we kind of always had to find a reason why we need to practice, but for a musician to find a reason to practice, it's so easy.
Yeah.
You can always find a reason. But they were very, very supportive. And we were all very grateful that they kind of allowed us doing that, because they understand that we chose our life to dedicate to music, and kind of that's the most important for us. And we'll feel quite bad if we don't practice the whole day, because we got to attend all of those classes that might not be very that we might not really need in our future. At the same time, of course, we would always have to pass exams of all those subjects, which is also very important for our common knowledge and common education. So it was a perfect kind of combination of humanity between professors and students. And we really did have fun. I mean, even sometimes just missing classes, not telling the teacher that we're not there. It's so like kind of mysterious what will happen. And then when nothing really happened, and the teacher was like, I understand you practiced. I checked that you booked a room, so no worries. I understand. However, please don't really sit on my head always, because that will make me look bad, etc., etc. But if you learned everything like in your spare time and you came prepared to the exam, etc., they would totally forgive you. And I think it's really wonderful. I think it was really very impactful for us, for our practice times, and for our kind of preparation.
Yeah, that, I mean, even just hearing that is, I mean, it's so. I wish I actually had that kind of experience here in Canada, growing up in Canada, because that sort of experience is, I don't know, I don't want to say it's unheard of in Canada, but it's just you don't hear of this
I would
in
say
Canada.
It's unheard of.
Yeah, it's unheard of.
Yeah.
Because the thing is, and even I've had Magdalena Bachevska, the director of the Columbia Juilliard Music Performance Program, and she experienced in her day growing up in Poland. She didn't go to a boarding school, but it was also like music education was built into the Polish system. I would assume that, I mean, of course, for your educational background at the Music Lyceum, music was literally the main focus of your studies. But I would assume that even outside of that, in Ukraine and really in a lot of the Eastern European countries, there would have been a pretty strong focus on the arts and music as an important area of study. Maybe not necessarily like the primary area, but an important area of considerable importance in some curriculum. Yeah. Very different from Canada, very different from the US. In Canada, we've had issues where it's completely foregone. It's completely forgotten even in some areas where you would have, I mean, the average Canadian, honestly, the average Canadian kid, at least back in my day, which isn't even that long ago, it's probably worse even now. They don't even know solfege. They don't even know that, right? So
yeah.
That's why I wanted to ask about this experience, because I think the closest parallel here in Canada would be almost like the hockey academies here in Canada, where you have studying, but then you have hockey as kind of one of your focuses on developing how to eventually make the NHL, if you can make it that far. But this is something that I think needs more attention here, because it's so overlooked that you're almost missing a crucial part of being human, even.
Yeah, I understand, and it really, I think it's a very nice comparison you made with hockey, because I mean, we've got in Ukraine, we've got 4 music schools like that are completely focused on music in like kind of all 4 parts of Ukraine. So central Ukraine, south Ukraine, eastern and western Ukraine. Each of those parts has this specialized music school. So kids from closer regions can go study there and dedicate their kind of childhood to music, yet of course with all the rest of the subjects. But I think it's really nice to have this kind of option and being able to study music if you love it on a different kind of level since you are already like 13, 12 years old.
Yeah, and at that point, you're still extremely young, but you at least understand
Yeah.
the significance of that, and you're developing towards that direction. So, yeah, truly important
Yeah,
to have. Yeah,
I think you certainly can understand in that age if you love that or not. And I mean, music, I think it's really about love. And above all, and if you really truly do love music, I think it's the right choice. If you feel like it's really difficult, want to waste my time to practice, I mean, that's a whole different story. But I think it's really important to love music.
to be fair, many people would be like, practice. I think most musicians come to a part where it's like, I gotta practice, the kind of thing at some point, right?
Oh,
Even
me too. Certainly sometimes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Every other day, kind of. But then you sit on the piano, and then it's like, okay, yeah, that's so peaceful and so wonderful. I would say the most difficult part is kind of to wake up and it's like, okay, I gotta go practice. And then, so what I would always do, and still I do that, I always kind of try call my friends and see if they're around. We go for a coffee, a little conversation, and then after kind of hanging out for an hour or two, I would then, with a great happiness, sit at the piano because I know that, oh, I had a very nice morning, very relaxed, etc. Now I can do some music. So yeah, I completely understand this mentality of being kind of hard to start practicing during the day.
yeah, yeah,
Pick the right time.
I'm really fascinated by when you mentioned that in the morning you would also talk with your friends so that you can meet for coffee, and then afterwards then you go to practice. See, that's such an interesting experience because for pianists, I know in my experience at least, it was very individual. It was very, I could even say isolating even at times because for me, I'm usually on my own practicing. Now, my mom was my first piano teacher and was my piano teacher for a number of years before I had a different piano teacher trying to go into performance. But even for the entirety of my time playing and performing piano when I was younger, it was very isolating in a lot of ways. So, and not to mention that, I mean, as you know, Canada being, as I mentioned earlier, not necessarily at the time a musical center for classical music at the time. So for me, there wasn't that culture of even just reaching out to friends and asking and talking with them about the music because oftentimes I was the only musician in my class or in my social group, or even if I was, it was at a point where it was like you kind of felt isolated because we were just practicing. So to hear this kind of communal experience is really fascinating because I think that's also one thing that is, I think, being rediscovered, especially post-COVID, post-social media, this sense of community, even in something as simple as practicing or before practicing. It's really, wow. It's like, wow, that was very apparent to me.
Yeah, that really gives some support for the day, and I think also that's what we did in the Kyiv specialized music school, named after Lysenko. It's just that's what it probably that's how it helps, like because all of us, literally everyone in the school, is a musician who wants to be a really great professional musician. So that's that also kind of we all have same kind of goals, and we would also during the breaks meet together, talk about music, life, everything. Like literally, you could come to the room. Like it was so natural that if you don't feel like practicing a lot, like half an hour or an hour, and then and then you just break into someone's room while someone's practicing, and you just, okay, let's go drink some coffee or whatever. And then this person is like, but I want to practice. And then at this moment he's like, okay, now I don't want to practice, let's go. And it's like it was kind of unwritten rule that if somebody breaks into your room, you gotta go with this person.
Oh
and
my
then
God.
come back.
You know, in a very interesting way, this kind of reminds me, in a roundabout way, I had Janina Fielkowska on an earlier episode of my podcast, and this was after she won third at the Rubinstein competition. When Arthur Rubinstein, he eventually became her mentor, and
Yeah.
Janina would mention how Rubinstein would always tell her, "Don't practice, don't practice, don't practice." So it's like, well, Janina was like, I need to practice though, because, and it's like eventually, yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, fine, then practice then. But it's like, it's almost like that, right? It's like, there's the fun aspect of music that a lot of people forget about. It's like, it's fun. It's supposed to be fun.
Yes, yes. And you gotta live a life in order to be able to share the story of your life sometimes through the music. So, I mean, it's very, very important to have life, to have something happening. Because that's kind of what was composers also. They weren't necessarily writing all day long that music without not thinking what they were writing about. I mean, usually it was stories from their life, kind of produced into the music that they composed, and I think it's everybody's got a life to experience, and everybody has different experiences, and sometimes really some bad things happen, some good things happen, and you can always kind of you literally always feel like, this day is so good for this piece. Oh my God, I think I've never played it so beautifully because what happened yesterday in my life, etc., etc., or what happened during the month of my life. And I've experienced that already. I'm grateful for those feelings because they really make you live through the music with really different feelings.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the life experience that informs the performance, especially as you get older and older and older. You have a different perspective on the same piece that you would have performed years ago or even months ago, but then you just come back with it. Oh, it's actually quite different. Now I understand it differently. I see this phrasing differently. It's like, wow, you know, that's the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why the word maturity, it really does exist, and it is so important in some sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And speaking about that, and in terms of performance, I mentioned how you made your concert debut at 12 years old at the National Philharmonic Hall in Ukraine. Take us back to that debut. What do you remember from that performance experience?
Well, what I remember, it's very vague actually, but I remember I was, of course, super nervous. It was not like completely my solo recital. It was kind of a couple of young kids performing their first time at the National Philharmonic Center. And I honestly don't even remember the pieces I played. But I just remember, and I was still living in Chernihiv, so I just remember those incredible emotions, just looking at this concert hall that I've never experienced, those majestic, this majestic concert hall, and just so beautiful. And once you walk on stage, I mean, I was, as a kid, I was so nervous all the time, just so nervous. So probably because of that, I don't have many memories from that, but I remember, I mean, just walking in Kyiv, in the capital, with my mother, and just enjoying the city, just also opening a new life chapter. And then actually that's what brought me to Kyiv later, because I was so fascinated by the city, by its beauty. Really wanted to live there, study there. So I mean, everything was very, very impactful, and yeah, certainly great memories. I cannot honestly say that I truly remember everything from that day. So that's it. Yeah.
That's fascinating. That's great. And that experience, that performance experience, and also your educational experience in Kyiv would serve you greatly as you would then go on to study piano with the great Arie Vardi in
Yes.
Tel Aviv. What is he like, and how has he developed your musical style?
He is truly remarkable, and he's been just the biggest support in my career, in my professional development. He's just so he's the kind of piano professor that kind of sees his students what they need, and each one of us are so different, and he truly kind of figures out those points that needs to be kind of bettered, I would say, and points that out. And at the same time, he works on those weak spots, and each one of us got different weak spots. Um, After all, he never kind of, he always tells you, just do what you love. At the end of the day, literally forget kind of my comments, go on stage and literally do everything that you love. Spontaneous, just explore your expressiveness, etc. He kind of points out the best what every student has, and he makes it like the highlight of each student, and tries to better the weak spots. So, and I would also say this sentence, like, what makes a great teacher great is that literally, in my opinion, like every student of his, from what I see, is so happy, and I think each one of us believes that we are his favorite student. So I think this is so incredible, how professor can make us believe that, like, literally every student is so much loved, so much supported, and there is no kind of competition in between the students, because each one of us truly believes and understands that he loves us, he cares for us, etc., etc. And I think this is very important quality, as we always sometimes hear that, oh, this teacher prefers one student and really tries to make him his best student, etc. And not necessarily I believe this is the best solution in how to make your students great, or how to get your name there. I think what's really so significant for us is to feel this support, to understand that we are developing, to feel supported in a way that like he's after every performance, after every competition, sometimes you don't feel you play so well, and then you hear all of those incredible moments that you had. He follows literally every student, he follows all the performances, he always interested in how did it go, etc., etc. And when he's able to watch it, he always watches it, and then he says literally only compliments. And like we had once conversation, like I was like, you remember I played like 2 years ago this Beethoven sonata, and you said it was so wonderful. And he says, it was really bad. It was really bad. But in order to improve it, I had to point out the good moments. So you really, and then you try to develop the bad ones. And I say, wow, that's really so fascinating. And it really helped me so much, because I believed in myself, and I believed that I could do even better, even though it was already good, as he said. And it really did help me on so many steps, just believing in myself. And this is what he does truly the best, what I experienced. And that's what I forever will be grateful to him. And he's really a mentor that you can always call, ask for advice, truly invaluable advices. And it will always be so precise, and you can trust him. You can trust him like kind of no one else, because he's in my life. He's been for like 9 years already, and yeah, well, he's the first one to call if I need some valuable advice, and it's always a great one, like always. So it's something that is more than just a piano teacher, piano professor. It is kind of very, very special, kind of like another family member, really. And that's I think what makes professors great when they really feel so connected to their students.
Yeah, yeah, and it's important to have that support in an industry like this, where especially
Yes.
as you're doing now, you're traveling all around the world. You've got all these performances. You're usually on your own for the majority of that. We were speaking a little bit even before we started recording. Like my cousin Kirsten Leung, who I've had on an earlier episode of my podcast, as a violinist, he's often traveling on his own, right? So it can be very isolating and very individualistic and very, very lonely even at times when you're on the road by yourself on this point, right? So to have that support, not just the illusion of support, but genuine support, like that is so important, especially here in the West, where there's this kind of individualistic mentality of, oh, you do it on your own kind of thing, where you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and you just keep doing, going, whatever. It's really difficult for some people to remember that you are but one person. You're but a singular person, right? You still, I mean, as much as you can do things on your own, there's only so much you can do on your own.
Yes.
So in this industry, I'm rambling a little bit on this point, but it just goes to show that even in an industry where it appears like you're doing things on your own, you're actually not. You have your whole group of network, your support network, your group to bring you forward and to inspire you. Like a lot of what you said about Arie Vardi is very inspirational and genuinely inspirational, uplifting in many different ways. And it's one thing to just say that it's inspirational, but it's a whole different thing when it's actually genuinely inspirational, where even beyond the words, it helps people, it uplifts people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, I think it's very important for us musicians. As you said, it's very. This is a world of kind of taste sometimes, and sometimes not necessarily the person who didn't like your like. Sometimes it's very important to hear another opinion, very genuine opinion, as you said, that is kind of on the contrary of some person you met or some person that judged you, etc. And it really does make a difference. And it really does make a difference in terms of believing in yourself. That is, I think in our profession is really, really so important, because there are always moments of weakness and not believing in yourself when something doesn't go so well, etc., etc. And it's always important to have this kind of people to just uplift you, as you said.
Yeah, totally. And having the uplifting experiences of all this and the community aspect and all that practice and learning and that you've done over the years, you would eventually compete at the Busoni International Piano Competition in 2021, and also at some time before that, the International Competition for Young Pianists in memory of Vladimir Horowitz. You will win top prizes in these competitions. What was the preparation process like for each of these competitions?
I still remember. I mean, Vladimir Horowitz Piano Competition was probably the first my big win. That like 3 rounds with an orchestra. I was playing Tchaikovsky in the finals. The preparation was kind of. I kind of performed all those pieces already somewhere. I mean, what was important for me when I was, I think, was like 17 years old or 16. What was important for me at that time is to be able to perform those pieces that I'm preparing for a competition in advance somewhere for someone, like some small space, recording studio for just 10 people, 20 people was very important. And I think the school where I studied in Tel Aviv, they provided that. And I had this kind of run-throughs, many run-throughs that really did help me. And I was feeling kind of really prepared for that competition, and I played the pieces that I love. And for Busoni, I remember my preparation, and it was really, really wonderful. I spent my summer literally the whole summer, like 2 months of my summer in Aspen Music Festival and school. And I was able to have lessons with Vida Kaplinsky, Hung Kwan Chen, and Fabio Bidini. And at the same time, my professor Arie Vardi was there, and he was kind of telling me, okay, here I'm not your professor. You get to know others and learn from them. You've got so much to learn. And there's also so incredible that he's so open minded and he trusts those truly also incredible piano professors. And that was an incredible summer for me. I really, really got so much. I could play many performance classes that Aspen Music Festival and School provided us, all of those pieces. And I had those wonderful lessons with Hung Kwan Chen, Vida, and Fabio Bidini. So many ideas, and literally the last day of Aspen, next day I traveled to the Busoni competition, and it really did help me so much. This 2 month great preparation, performing it all over and over again, and just having those incredible ideas, new ideas that those professors gave me was really great preparation. I'm grateful for. And just felt in love also with Aspen. It was so idyllic and really kind of perfect place to spend before a big competition, to just enjoy the nature, enjoy the music, great practice facilities there, and many practice rooms. So perfect place to prepare for a competition.
Yeah, it really is. And that's especially with a major competition like this. Mm-hmm. It's very, I mean, in my experience when I was competing at the Canadian music competition back many years ago, it's really easy to kind of fall, oh my goodness, I kind of like close up and be super nervous because then you're about to step on stage and mm-hmm. all that sort of thing. But it's that relaxation that helps you, right? It's that relaxation that helps you, that when you step on a stage, it's still a big deal, but it's not like, oh my goodness, you're completely tensed up. Like you're more relaxed, mm-hmm. you're more loose, you're more flexible at that point.
Yes. And I mean, in Aspen, they also have those spotlight concerts for students in a wonderful concert hall, Harris Hall. At that point, for me, it was like a big concert hall. So, and the competition, Busoni competition, it was kind of fairly the same size concert hall. So it was also very important to feel this kind of tension, as you said, before the competition. So this tension would pass actually. And for the main competition, you would be like, oh, I just performed in a hall like that, like a month ago, 2 weeks ago, a couple of times. So nothing bad happened. It was a great performance. So nothing to be afraid of. It's really was a great time.
It truly was. And that would be just the beginning of where you were headed on your career. What inspired you to hone in on Honens?
Honens, it is truly always was a competition of kind of my dream. And I honestly would say I was thinking, because I was still 20 years old, and that's like the lowest limit for applying for Honens. I would be like, well, they're looking for a complete artist. I think this is truly incredible what they do. I think their values are really of finding true musician who is being true to himself, to the audience, etc. And that's really what inspired me to go there. I was even thinking maybe it's too early, etc., but I was actually, summer before Honens, I was also in Aspen. So that was also, again, I spent the whole summer in Aspen right before Honens. And I was just like, yeah, let me try that, because I think what they have in their values, as I said, it's so amazing for a pianist, for a musician to experience and to try yourself in that field, kind of being interviewed, to be able to perform with a string quartet, to be able to perform with a great orchestra, and to recitals and chamber music with a violin. It's like all together. And it's kind of like I love all of that. I love chamber music, and I'm also accompanying the singer. I love the lead. Of course, I love performing with string quartets and big orchestras and just solo recitals. So it's like a full picture of who are you as an artist. And I think it's really something I felt and I feel comfortable with, like doing all of that like same week, just enjoying and getting to know those wonderful musicians you collaborate with, getting to learn so many things. And that's definitely what inspired me to go there. They're unique program and their unique complete artist agenda, and it's truly like a competition you really want to win because it says something. I mean the competition and its values, they say so much that you're really proud to be the winner of the Honens, because of all of that. And I applied, and I passed to the semifinals, and that was like one of the happiest moments of my life, to be top 10 in such a prestigious competition, to be able to come to Canada for the first time. I've always wanted to come to Canada. I've always dreamt of coming to Canada because I don't know, I just love the country. I love the flag. I love how it looks like. And I know that there is a large Ukrainian community in Canada, the largest, I would say, in the world, in Edmonton, actually, the largest Ukrainian community in the world. So I always had this inspiration to go to Canada. And eventually I went. Actually, I almost didn't go to the semifinals, as I had big troubles with visa. Like literally, I kind of canceled my participation 2 days before flying to Calgary. I was like, I'm sorry, but like visa is not coming. So what do I do, etc. And I don't know what Honens did, but I'm forever ever grateful to them for making that possible. In one day, somehow they expedited the process of my visa. I went on the next day to some embassy in Berlin, get my visa stamped, and the day after I flew to Calgary. So at that time, I felt already so happy that I actually arrived to Canada, that I also told myself, like, okay, this is not a competition for me. Like, I could have not been here yet one day before. I didn't think even I'm coming. So I just let Ilya enjoy every moment of it, and enjoy the friendship you might get with those incredible pianist competitors. So
that is fascinating.
and that is really and after, I mean, because my passport, Ukrainian passport, it's really sometimes hard to get so many visas, and you literally need visas to every country in the world. And Honens also they've been so supportive with those visas. They've helped me so much in so many cases after winning Honens as well, that I'm like, how do I even deserve this support and this help? Like, it's truly magnificent team, magnificent people I got to know, and it's just some destiny, and everybody tells me, like, yeah, you are not supposed to come, but you did. So it is really kind of destiny, and I'm just so happy it happened, and I'm so happy to everyone who made that possible.
That is wow. That is honestly mind-blowing in so many different ways, how you went from almost not being able to make it,
yes,
to now winning Honens in 2022. And it's also a year of catharsis too, in many different ways, for obvious reasons, of course. It was a very cathartic year. Take us through that moment
absolutely.
when you won.
Oh, I really couldn't believe. I mean, when I passed to the finals, to the top three, of course, again, this crazy happiness, and then performing with an orchestra with Calgary Philharmonic and Jeffrey Kahane, a wonderful conductor, really amazing, supportful conductor. I was literally, I remember, had the CEO at the time, Neil Edwards. He told me, Ilya, I was looking at you because I already knew you were going to win, and he said your reaction was like the best reaction I could get. You were really surprised, and I'm like, well, of course. I mean, I couldn't believe, like, and having all those thoughts, what was happening throughout the process of coming there and performing, and you are just tired, rehearsing all the time, every day something's happening, and you're just sitting there, and then they announce your name, and you literally, genuinely so surprised because you kind of never really know you're going to win because there are two other incredible pianists there. Rachel Brink, who is one of my best friends right now, truly incredible musician, and Alexandra Kasman, absolutely also mind-blowing musician. And you just feel so great. You're there on the same stage with them, and then they announce your name, and you're really, it's like dream come true moment. Certainly dream come true moment, and you really feel like you're sleeping because all of us, we have those crazy dreams where we are stars or something. I mean, sometimes I do have those dreams like, oh, I'm performing with New York Philharmonic and I'm so happy, etc., and then I wake up, I was like, ah, no, that's not happening soon. But that was like, please tell me it's not a dream because it is the happiest moment of my life, and the moment where everything turned upside down in a good sense, upside down. Just next day after winning, you get so many text messages from wonderful, important presenters that you're just like so shocked, and so many congratulations from wonderful professors, wonderful pianists, and you're like living in some other dimension, that is this happening to me, is this happening to me, and just try to enjoy every moment of it. And I try to enjoy every moment of it until now, because this is really a blessing to, like, I don't know the word. It's a blessing to have these kind of moments in your life, and you gotta use them really well because they're just given to you, and it's truly something unimaginable in a way at the moment, because you've spent your whole life going for it, and then it does happen, and I'm like, well, dreams really do come true, and you just believe in yourself, you just do your best, do what you love, and then it happens. So it was truly majestic moment.
Yeah, yeah, my goodness. And again, just hearing that story and hearing from what you went through to get to that point, that particular year as well, is something that is, again, very cathartic, and also almost like, I don't want to say it's a storybook ending because it's not, but it's like, boom, like there is like a very clear conclusion to the climax of a story, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said, like, I can write a book. I can certainly at some point, and I've got so many stories also of different visa problems and how sometimes it is managed, sometimes it is not managed. I'm like, yeah, then 24, I can really write a book about those crazy stories and nerves that I had in my life. But I think what is wonderful also, those nerves that I had, like nowadays, I go on stage and I'm like, whoa, I went through so much at some points in my life, and I get to be here to perform this beautiful music to incredible, beautiful, warm audiences that love music, that are just waiting to hear beautiful music. Isn't that something? Isn't that a miracle? Isn't that something beautiful? And yeah, when I go on stage, it's always a wonderful moment of just expectation of sharing this beautiful music with an audience and being there. Like, it's every venue is so special and so unique in its own way. So being anywhere, being able to perform, as I said, it's truly magical.
Magical indeed, and special indeed. And one of the performances that, one of the pieces, I should say, that I that really sticks out to me, and it's a piece that you still perform even up until this day, is the Liszt Sonata in B minor,
Yes,
which
yes.
was one that you performed even at the Honens competition as well. So for those in the audience who are not familiar with this piece, it's one of the crowning achievements of Franz Liszt. It's known for, first of all, it's known for being incredibly long for being a single movement sonata, basically a half hour to perform the whole
Yeah.
thing. And second of all, it's not just a half hour of easiness; it's a half hour of twists and turns and different technical capabilities, also musical nuances at the same time. You really have to go listen to Ilya's performance of that at Honens, and also for those in here in Canada or really around the world, if you have a chance to be able to watch him perform it at his concerts as well. But that is, in many ways, because the piece represents a lot of Franz Liszt himself, but I think in your case, it also represented a lot of you at the same time. And I think it really showed in that performance, especially what you were going through for for during that time up
Yeah.
until the competitions. Like, my goodness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is a very dear to my heart piece that that I tried to perform it. I tried to perform it in every competition I participated because I felt very connected to it, and I think this is something uh, extraordinary that a human could have written something like that with such a sophisticated structure and those transformation of the themes. It has everything, and it has been with me through kind of all of my kind of adult life, and I just love performing it every time and finding something new. It's always revelatory in this sonata because you can literally, with this sonata, you can always learn something new. You can always find some new things, and you can always hear some lectures on this sonata, and you are like, wow, blown away. Like, yes, I played it many times. I didn't think of that specific thing, etc., etc. And it's a revelatory sonata, and the structure of it is incredible, and I just really genuinely love performing it, and presenters also, they do love when I program it, and whenever I'm asked to program it, I do it with easily, and I love actually that sometimes they do ask me to play it because it's the more you play this sonata, I would say easier it is to play it next time and next time and next time. Not easier in terms of like performing it, but easier in terms of just sitting at the piano and going through the whole sonata, the whole story, and the whole kind of holding the structure. It just kind of easier to breathe through this sonata once you performed it more times and more times. And so I just love nowadays performing this sonata, especially because I can always breathe nicely, and also sometimes make spontaneous decisions in this sonata that like trying to always do something different with the sonata, because if you just always play the same 30 times or 40 times, oh gosh, you'll get tired of it, and I think audience will feel it. So I always, as I said, love when presenters ask programming this sonata in a recital, and I always try to practice it in a completely some different ways, and always try to find something new, and that makes I think everyone, when we look at the score that we performed 100 times, like 100 times, 100 times, and we try to find some new things or some things that you didn't notice before. That makes us better musicians, to just get through the piece with an open eyes yet again, look at it as if you never looked at it. And so, yeah, it's just a sonata that was with me and is still with me. And I hope it will always be with me for the rest of my life, because this is a piece that is kind of, it's what's the word? It is a forever piece, kind of. It's just like the life of a human is like some years, but the sonata is, I'm sure it will be forever remembered, forever performed. It's something. What's the word? I can't remember that. Just yeah, forever in times, like whatever time it is in the history. This sonata always has some statement to make. So it's always. I forgot this word. I'm sorry, I forgot this word. I don't know this word probably. I'm trying. I know it in Ukrainian, but I don't know it in English.
Oh.
Yeah.
No, but I think the audience knows what you're talking about, because yeah, it's very, and like I said, this piece it's so all encompassing in so many different ways. For me, I have a similar experience with Liszt's Dante Sonata when I performed that piece. It's not half an hour long, but it's still about 20 minutes long. It's still a marathon in and of itself in many different ways. But for me, when I was still performing very intensely at the time, it is a piece that in many ways is all encompassing, but also for me challenging in the sense that it always keeps me up on my toes. For me, it's almost like a workout almost, because there's certain parts just like, oh my goodness gracious, like you're still sprinting at the very, very end, but it's still very touching, very musically. It hits all of the right musical notes, literally and figuratively. Yeah. And I don't know if the word you were looking for is it's like almost immortalized in I don't know if that's like the right word, but it's forever immortalized in terms of impressions on how you're performing.
Yes, certainly.
So
certainly.
But that's like a similar experience that I've had, at least with the Dante Sonata, in comparison to the Sonata in B minor that you've performed.
Yes, yeah, actually immortalized. Yes, that perfectly works. That perfectly. It's always alive. It's always kind of alive. Yeah.
Yeah. So after you won Honens, you would of course perform many concerts, as you still do. And recently, as of the recording of this episode, you had just completed a performance at Campbellford in Ontario, here in Canada. What's also fascinating, though, is the educational side of your career, where, especially with Honens, you work with Jackie and you work with other Honens team members in bringing the joy of music to the communities of Calgary and Alberta, and really Canada as well. How has that teaching side influenced your performative side? And how has your performative side influenced your teaching side?
Well, I mean, to be able to experience performing with such artists as Jackie Parker, as also Louis Lortie, for example, it's such an incredible experience. You get to know so much from that, and being able to rehearse with them. It's just you are becoming a better musician if you really care for what they say, and I really do, and some advices are just incredible. I will just forever take them with me. Some sentences are incredible that I forever will remember, and that will influence hopefully my teaching side in the future. And it's just some invaluable advices, some invaluable just rehearsing times, and etc. etc. And after winning Honens, I've most of the time I perform with more experienced artists, more well-known artists, and every comment matters to me, and I really try to take it with me for my life. And I've started doing some master classes that I truly love. I love sharing my ideas, also having to hear the ideas of those wonderful young musicians, and it's always so wonderful to exchange those and to just always stay open-minded. And that I think it's truly what makes every musician better, just to always stay open-minded.
Yeah. Absolutely true. Always stay open-minded, and that is how you continue to evolve as a musician, even as a person as well, as you continue to go down this path. And being a musician and having these experiences in performing, there comes the one big question. What is musicality to you?
Mm-hmm. What is musicality to me? Um, I would say just be true to yourself. I mean, feel the music the way you really feel it. Don't make it so you can please the audience, etc., etc. Just being true to yourself. That's how I would describe it.
And in being true to yourself, how do you develop that into your own unique musical style?
I would say like those kind of things that my professor would always tell me, like forget my comments, it's all there already, and just try to explore and try to be spontaneous on the stage, and try to hear those harmonies, try to hear them differently. Be very careful with your ears, with your pedaling, etc. Always feel the suspension during your performance, etc., etc. So feeling those, sometimes it can be just one moment, one very special moment during some piece or some performance, and when yes, that was it, and it's just so incredibly satisfying to have those moments. And I would say those ones are kind of very, very special. And uh, just never I never, when I go on stage, I kind of stopped having those thoughts of, okay, here I do this, here I do this, here I do this, kind of already prepared things. I must admit, I did think like that before some competitions, but I think competition field and performance field, it's a little bit different, to kind of different mentalities for pianists to enter a competition and to perform a recital for just at the festival, etc. And I always just go to the stage and I'm telling myself, okay, now is your time to enjoy, explore, and find something new. Literally on stage while performing, find something new and emphasize that sometimes. Sometimes hear just the pause better. Try to go through this pause with some different emotion, etc., etc. But I can only realize it while performing. So that's kind of what being true to myself means for me. I hope I explained it okay.
Yeah, no, that was great. And you mentioned that it's almost like a spontaneity when you were
Yeah.
approaching into these performances, and that's so true because every performance is different. I mean, you can look at. I mean, in your case, you could perform the Liszt Sonata in B minor many different times, but each time is just ever so slightly different, or if you choose to, could be very different from your previous performances. It's like it's in the moment you feel what you feel in that moment as you perform. So no, absolutely, that spontaneity
Yes.
is very much a part of that performance, and also what helps you develop your own musical style as well. So no, that was a great explanation. In terms of developing a musical style and your musicality, this ultimately comes down to what the Honens philosophy is, the complete artist. What is the complete artist to you, and how do you embody the complete artist?
To me, a complete artist is an artist who is unafraid of anything, in a way, ready to explore different possibilities, always stays open minded. But it even goes sometimes beyond that. I mean, I would even say complete artist, it's not necessarily only about a complete musician. It's about many aspects of your life. I mean, being a great human being, I think, is very important. I think understanding what's happening in the world is very important. Being aware of what's happening in the world. So I think in just my personal opinion, it's something that that like. That makes you a good human being, not only your music, but many other things. Um, it's kind of hard to explain, but something beyond the music. If you really genuinely do care about something beyond the music, then I think it will make your music even greater. So that's my personal opinion about being a complete artist, etc. At the same time, we can only strive for being a complete artist. Of course, that's kind of a statement, like complete artist. Of course, nobody can actually say they are complete artists, complete humans, etc., etc. It's something you are striving for, and I guess Honens is trying to find the person who is striving for that the most. And I truly hope I try to embody it as much as I can, and I will try forever. And it's just something that you always need to be aware of, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, and it goes back to what you were saying about the open-mindedness as well, and
Absolutely.
being true to yourself as well, because that
All of that, yes.
these qualities, honesty is such an important quality. Actually, in many years ago, I hosted a different podcast, a more law-themed podcast, and one of the guests that I had was Canadian Prime Minister Paul Martin, one of the former Canadian Prime Minister. And what I asked him about in his experiences in business, because he went from business, he was a lawyer who never practiced law, but he went into business and then went into politics afterwards. And one of the questions that I asked him was, what was the most important piece of advice that you had in business? Because at the time he was working for one of Canada's, big businesses and whatnot, right? And he said, honesty is the best policy. It really is. And even like this is universal, I think, across really every single industry, whether it's business, law, or in this case, music, because you come across the best way, right? And even being a complete artist requires honesty. It requires raw emotion even at times, right? And being, as you said, aware of your surroundings and being aware of what's happening, going on. Of course, not being too fixated on that where you're obsessing over it, but knowing what's going on. And that through osmosis, affecting the way how you perform and you just express that naturally and organically through that kind of performance, I think is such an important quality for an artist of any kind, really, to
Absolutely.
really have in this sort of endeavor.
Yeah, absolutely. I cannot agree more.
So with a new Honens about to, it's already begun, but a new semifinals that's about to begin in October 2025. There's going to be a lot of excitement and buzz going around, especially in Alberta, but really in Canada. There's going to be a lot of excitement and focus on this particular competition this year. Now, many audience members of my podcast are not necessarily as familiar with international piano competitions as they are with sports competitions. So it could be a bit jarring for them to, if they choose to, watch competitions like Honens. So how can they watch and enjoy international piano competitions such as Honens and get the most out of their viewing and enjoyment of such competitions?
Well, I would say you have to perceive this piano competition, and I would say this specifically about Honens, as a kind of not a piano competition, but rather a celebration of music. And you just sometimes, if you're not necessarily interested in watching all the recitals all day long, I understand sometimes pieces can be repeated, etc., etc. You can always like look for one of your favorite pieces that you want to hear again, etc. And just look for those pieces and try to find them. And while listening to that piece, maybe perhaps you would want to listen to more of the music, and that's how you would continue just watching the competition nonstop, hopefully. And I mean, the level of the musicianship at Honens is so truly incredible that I would, of course, highly recommend to everyone to watch as much as they can, as those wonderful musicians, they come and they dedicate their lives for this moment, and it's so important to feel support in those moments. And what amazing about Honens as well is, as I said, like you perform at the semifinals, you perform 2 recitals, each one 60, 65, 70 minutes long. So it is kind of like a concert, actually. And you get so many chances to show yourself as a full musician, to kind of show yourself in many genres. So you just you can perceive it as just watching a recital at some festival. They've got incredible transmissions, and you try, I would say, not to judge it, etc. Just try to enjoy the music and the recitals those pianists offer to you. I certainly believe each one of them will do it from the bottom of their heart, and because it's really top level musicianship, and those moments are very special for them. So if you could support them, and by watching the live stream or coming to Calgary, I mean, that's like some people, I met during the competition in Calgary. Every time I come back, I mean, it's so nice to see familiar faces in the audience. It really does. I could feel it while performing, just seeing a couple of faces that I met during the competition, how supportive they were, how many warm words they said. And it gives us so much inspiration as well during the performance and for the future. And when you come back, and you're just excited to see those people again. So I truly hope you enjoy, because this competition truly deserves highest recognition among audience, among professionals, among musicians, everyone.
Yeah, and this is the reason why I call it the Grand Slam, the Canadian Grand Slam of piano competition.
I love it. Yeah.
It's also a bit of a sports reference too for those in the audience. But
yes.
It's one way of describing it.
I'm a big tennis lover, so that's a perfect explanation. Yeah.
I know how you're a big fan of Roger Federer.
Yes.
I mean, but as you know, he retired just a couple of years ago, and that was
yes.
That was.
And that's when I lost my interest to tennis. I'm joking.
And then, I mean, Nadal then would retire very quickly after. It's like, oh man, I mean, it's the loss of an era, honestly, of 20 years of over 20 years of top level tennis. I mean,
beautiful tennis, really beautiful tennis. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the days when there was still Pete Sampras back in the 90s. That was actually before my time. I'm a 90s kid, but I'm not that old. So, but then afterwards, then it was really Federer and Nadal 1 and 2, and then Djokovic came on the scene. Now he's also still one of the top players now, and now it's end of an era. Everything has to end at some point, right? So
yes, absolutely.
So, what are the greatest misconceptions of classical music that other people have expressed to you in your experience, and how do you disprove these misconceptions?
The biggest probably misconception, and that's why many, I would say younger crowd doesn't come to concerts, is that it's the elite field for listeners, and only those ones who completely understand and so knowledgeable come to the concerts. I would say this is the biggest misconception. Completely, I would say it's getting kind of destroyed little by little. And also, like opera houses, for example, you go to an opera house, you gotta dress your best, etc., etc. I would say this, and because of that, people have those misconceptions about classical music being only for some specific very special people, kind of. And I would say you just once you experience it, and once you are not afraid to experience it, you'll just be blown away, and you'll just once you get to experience it, and you'll understand this is a big misconception, and we are so happy to welcome absolutely anyone. And but I think it's changing. I think it's really changing, and sometimes I'm the most happy person when I see in the audience they're very young people, and I understand that the music will go on, etc. It's something that will never be dead for sure. That's certainly mortal. And yeah, I would say this one is the first misconception that comes to my mind.
Yeah, and it's a common answer that I get for this question as well, and even especially in Canada, there is that misconception of, oh, this is for, like, exactly as you said, I had to dress up for this event. You can't clap at certain areas, and then all that kind of thing, right?
The clapping as well. I mean, you certainly don't worry. I mean, it does for me doesn't disturb if you clap between movements. That's absolutely okay. Don't feel embarrassed at all. I mean, that happens everywhere. It's absolutely normal. And you know what? That happened also during Mozart times, and it was actually quite appreciated. Well, during operas, I mean, actually Mozart writing sometimes we can see that Mozart actually wrote this specifically so crowd could clap and have some little break during the piece sometimes. So it's absolutely normal, and yeah, just don't worry about that. Clap when you want.
Exactly. Really. And even Jonathan Crow said it perfectly. It's like, if you feel very, very strongly about that, there's nothing wrong with applauding for it.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know it certainly happened a couple of times with Kirsten's performances in his own experiences. So I mean, like, it's very much like if you feel so much in tune with it, then you absolutely you should. I mean, you shouldn't feel limited by it. Actually, this, in a very interesting way, this actually reminds me of, as you mentioned, Mozart. The magic flute and the March of the Priests, that part. Literally, the beginning is the opening cadence for O Canada.
Yeah.
So,
not really.
So it's literally O Canada. So it's funny because it's, I mean, some Canadians, when they hear, when they're familiar with the piece, they're just like, it's a good thing that I know this piece. Otherwise, I would have stood up.
There's nothing wrong about that.
Exactly. And especially given that it's literally the opening cadence of the national anthem of Canada. It's like, well, I mean,
wow.
But yeah, it's in my experience, and I've said this numerous times on the podcast at this point, but for when I was one of the organizers and hosting of the Canadian Chopin competition, one of the ways that I tried to relate this to people that were not familiar with the competition, or really with piano music or classical music in general, was to use kind of like sports references or kind of like sports equivalencies between them, right? And especially with a lot of people in my own cohort, I needed to do that because they didn't know. Because many of them either had very little musical training or had no idea, had no musical training whatsoever. So in that way, they actually understood it. Oh, okay, so this is almost like the Olympic qualifiers of piano, or this is almost like a Grand Slam or a major or something like that. In that way, it's like, oh, now they can start to understand the other nuances within the music itself in a very unconventional way, I would say. But at least it's like a start, one strategy of doing that. So it seems to work. I hope it continues to work. I mean...
Yeah, it will.
Illia, thank you so much for coming on to the show after a very, very busy schedule. And I think it's truly an inspirational, truly a fascinating story that you've lived so far in your career, has really expanded into such great heights, and to have these kinds of different adventures across the world and performances, and to share that with the audience. I think they would very much enjoy this. And again, thank you so much for telling the living legend of Illia Ovcharenko.
Thank you so much for having me and for joining our podcast. Thank you so much.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in to this episode of Hone In on Honens, an ongoing series on This is the Legend of. You have just watched or listened to the living legend of Illia Ovcharenko, 2022 Honens First Prize winner. You can follow him on various outlets. First of all, on Instagram at Illia Ovcharenko _pianist. You can also visit his website, www.illiaovcharenko.com, and you can also subscribe to his YouTube channel. I'll leave links to all of these different links in the description of the episode. Also, with Honens coming up in just a couple months' time, be sure to tune into each and every single performance and round of the Honens International Piano Competition in 2025. And also, to follow us, you can do so on all of our social media platforms, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, as well as be sure to sforzando the like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and clicking the bell notification icon on our YouTube channel so you will always be notified whenever we upload. And following us on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast, if you prefer the audio version as well. You can also donate to us on PayPal if you feel motivated to do so. And again, thank you so much for tuning into this one. Stay tuned for the next episode. Until next time, signing off for now, this is Amos Vang. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay legendary.